Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. We have made it through round 8 of the 2026 AFL season. It was a week that notched up our first draw of the campaign, a showdown that had to be seen to be believed while the Swans continued to rock and roll through with a nice Sunday win. I am Jesse Dart, joined as always by Liam. And Liam,
hello.
I think at this stage of the season, the dust is somewhat settled.
Okay.
We broadly know where everyone is, and I think we need to start talking about a couple of clubs with a bit more absolutism, especially down that bottom end of the ladder, because there's a few teams down that bottom portion of the ladder I'm very disappointed in, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some changes even as soon as the bye.
Yes, Jesse, there are a few teams down languishing at the bottom of the table that definitely need to get their act together, and that could be a case of making some big changes at the top end at CMPerfect_AFL on Insta, Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. YouTube as well, if you'd like our tips and trades episode, which will come out tomorrow as well, so you can see how we're going to tip and also do our fantasy. We'll have a bit of chat about that. It's getting close, Jesse. It's getting close in the tipping. I bet you're excited about that. Come check us out over there as well. But yes, Jesse, a few games to go through, which we always will do, and we'll do in this one again. English is always great after a day of working, isn't it, Jesse?
Famously the easiest thing to do. It's lucky.
I don't know what it is. I mean,
you haven't grown up speaking English or anything like that, Liam. So it's like it comes second nature to you.
No, I think it's like the once you hit that 40, it's just the downhill decline. You start forgetting words. Things don't work as well. It's just how it goes, Jesse. You'll get there one day as well, young man.
Stop making excuses. If Scott Pendlebury can continue to churn out career best games 20 years into his AFL career, frankly, I don't want to hear it from you. Vic Cumberland was playing AFL football at 43. So, you're really running out of excuses here.
Crucially, Jesse, I am at my peak right now.
Yes, that's a worry. That is a worry for us all.
It isn't it? But we're going to do a bit of a deep dive. Now, then? What's that, mate?
If you're at peak performance right now, do you want to do your tips now? Like, just write them down. We can stop recording and we're starting. Just don't do your tips. Because if this is you at your peak, then I think you're going to need all the help you can get if you want to beat me in the tipping competition, which, frankly, you're up against it at the best of times anyway. So let's see how you go.
Big talk from someone who's still losing, mate. Calm down.
Mate, I'm losing by a point. I wouldn't worry too much. April premiere.
All right. Well, famously, and April is now done, and I'm still on top. So I'll take that mantle. I'll put it on my head, my little crown, and then I'll be sure to give it to you probably next week. Okay, Jesse, let's talk about our deep dive for today. Now, you were saying we've got a good idea of where some of the teams are falling now. Some of the teams down the bottom we're really, really quite concerned about. But obviously, at the start of the year, we had a draft, and what better time to go through and give some early grades? We did some early grades for who did we do? The teams a couple of weeks ago. Let's do some players, shall we? Let's. And
next week we're going to do trades as well. So we'll grade all of the tradees, not the tradies. They're different.
Yeah.
Used to be the same thing. Used to get your 4 goals on the weekend and then they turn up to plumb your toilet on a Monday. But alas, we have professionals now.
Milan Murdoch would like a word.
He would. He wasn't in this draft order, but plenty of good players were. So we thought it was high time to go through and grade some of the guys that we've seen so far. Obviously, we haven't seen, a fair few of the rookies yet, but we've seen most of the top guys, and we'll try to avoid guys like Dan Annable, who played one game before getting injured, so he's not been included in this because that's not very nice. Gee, you're a harsh man. Now, Liam, we can't grade the Essendon players anything lower than A because they'll get very upset.
Okay,
they'll get very upset.
So just we're blanket Roby, Farrow, all A's. Yeah. Okay.
Although in fairness, there is one Essendon drafted that's getting an A, but we can't. Realistically, we have to have a flaw because they'll get really upset. Remember the draft video, Len? Do you remember the draft video? If you haven't seen the draft video, go look at the draft video. Let's get straight into it. I think why waste time waffling? And
we'll caveat that we're not going to do every single draftee. We'd be here till tomorrow, and we don't want to do that for us or for you, dear listener. For you at all.
There'll be a lot of C's in that because they just be guys that haven't played. So
that's true. You can't rate them. You can't grade them, Jesse. But have you got a specific order you're going in, or you're just going to get your list up and just go nuts?
I'm going to go down the draft order, so down the draft board, starting with pick 1, which of course was Willem Dursman, who's made his way to the Eagles. Now, I very controversially suggested that he might not end up being the best player in the draft class at the time. I still stand by that. He has made an excellent start. I don't doubt that he's going to be a very good player in the competition. But, I'm still made it clear that I think Dersma has limitations. And I think to his and to West Coast credit, they've really found his strengths. And he's really flourishing in a role where he can play that kind of hybrid wing half forward, can avoid a lot of the crash and bash thanks to guys like Harley Reid and Tim Kelly and Elliot Yeo when he's playing. So what we saw from him on Saturday was a player that really can live up to the big occasions with his late, almost equaliser, got them to within a kick. Very, very impressive goal. Real good leg speed too. That late in the game as well. Love to see that from him. Burnt Jaden Short. I know Jaden Short's not exactly going to win the London Marathon in sub 2 hours, but he's not Toby Nankervis in the speed department. So really impressive from Durs. We'll talk about that game more a bit later on, but I'm going with a B+.
I love how you just your benchmark from being able to run really well was the best run that's ever existed anywhere in the history of the world, Jesse.
Yeah, you are. You're like I was going to call you the Kajelcha of this podcast, but that's probably unfair on Kajelcha because for that bloke to run sub 2 hours and still not get the world record, given that's never happened before, and he's also on debut, that's pretty stiff. Or maybe Dersma's the Kajelcha of this list because he's getting a B+. He's done very well. He's made a really good start to life at West Coast. Plenty of good signs from him. In terms of his development, I think that somewhat remains to be seen in terms of how they continue to get the best out of him, and then if that wing half-forward hybrid is necessarily the best use of him in time. I would imagine there'd be a hope he can go and really damage in the midfield long-term, but that just remains to be seen. I think we've seen some very good signs from him so far, and a B+ is more than fair. I certainly don't think he's misstepped as pick 1 to this stage.
No, and it's when you watch him play, he's a very slight fella. So I think once he's got a few seasons under his belt, he's bulked up a little bit. He could be definitely one of the danger players of the competition, that's for sure. Because there's not many players where you see them and the jerseys look baggy. Dersma's one of those guys where it's God, you must be I'd be scared going out there with all those bulky gentlemen running around, just out there, jersey flowing in the wind. But he's very good.
His frame just reminds me of Nick Cox at the Bombers, and that's my kind of. It's not a limiting factor. That's not really fair on Willem because he's still very much in that development phase. And all these guys are getting graded off 5 games, give or take. Some have played all, some have played less. So very much covering that. But hey, the draft videos do well. So clickety click click click. Subscribe. Look, I just think it's important to caveat that I don't think Willem Dersma is going to be the guy at West Coast long term. I think he's going to be a very good player. I think he's absolutely going to be best 23 and part of this Eagles rebuild. I still think, and I still hope, that Harley Reid is that guy at the Eagles long term, and that he's the nucleus that you're building around, with Willem being in that very important next layer, and one of the guys you can rely on in that longer term. And we'll come to a couple of his other teammates as well as we go through later on. But look, I don't think you can fault Dersma's start. Very impressive, and hopefully for his and the Eagles' sake, we can continue to see him performing.
Absolutely, Jesse. Who's next on your little list here?
We're going to do Zeke Hewland at pick number 2, who has played most of the season. He's dropped out of the team now. I think managed was the official line out of the Suns. I suspect he'll be back in the team because he's putting together a decent bodywork. I'm going B- for Hewland. I think we've seen some really good things from him. He's also in a position, though, where I think the role that he's going to be best at in time is currently occupied by his brother, John Noble, and Daniel Rioli, which does make things a bit difficult for him. Like a guy like Dersma, Dean, who will come to, they've Farrow as well. They've slotted into positions where they've become that position by default in many ways because they've gone to these teams that are really down the bottom. There's a thin layer of talent. Hewland and Patterson, who isn't coming into this because he hasn't played. We're going to put him to one side here as well. But I think that they're both in that half-back, maybe wing mould, which is very much stacked at the Suns, and it makes life very difficult to not only get in the team, but then also excel in that team. So, seen some good footy smarts from Hewland. He attacks the ball well, uses the ball pretty well too, which I like as well for a young player. So, B- from Hewland. He's one that, it may take him a couple of years to really break out, but I still think he might be the one. There's probably one other one that I'm thinking of that I'm really, really keen on from what we've seen so far in terms of that long-term superstar power. But I see Hewland as being a very valuable player long-term at the Suns.
Well, we talked about at the start of the season how it might be difficult for him to slot in at all with the talent that the Suns have got there. So the fact that he's been able to get a fair amount of games under his belt is really good, and obviously, who he's surrounded by and who he's learning from is fantastic. It's the double-edged sword when it comes to draftees, right? You either get drafted by a team like the Eagles, like Richmond, and know that you're going to get game time in the top flight straight away, or like Zeke Scott, he's got a lot of probably like a big battle to get onto the field. But when he's there, man, having track running around next year can't be a bad thing.
No, not at all. Let's talk about Harry Dean, Lamb, who was taken pick 3 by Carlton, a father-son selection for them. What we're seeing from Harry Dean is positive. I'm going with a grade of B- for him as well. He doesn't have the problem that Euland has in that there is relatively thin competition. I mean, I'm not scared of Lewis Young for a defensive spot. Are you scared of Lewis Young for a defensive spot? I'm not.
I'm not. No, I'm
to
not,
be honest. So he's getting an opportunity, which is great. The problem is that I think Carlton have a bit of Wheateringitis in the sense that he is so much better than the rest of the defensive unit that he kind of gets to do whatever he wants, and that can be difficult for other key defenders to then work around. It's the same problem that the Giants have had with Sam Taylor at various stages as well, where you just have one guy that's so good defensively, is that you almost get this weird vacuum around him, and that can really disrupt other defenders when they don't know if Whittington's going to come over and intercept, where they don't really know what's going on. And especially for a young player, that's hard.
Was that on Wiedering as the older statesman in that position to kind of maybe take a step back then? I mean, we spoke about Luke Ryan for the longest time being the general for Freo down back because he was kind of guiding everything and making sure he didn't outstay his welcome. He was kind of just there, did his bits, but was kind of, molding the back line. So you're saying that Wiedering's more of a, no, I'll do it kind of leader instead of a...
Well, I think he's had to be.
Guiding the ship.
I think he's had to be for a very long time.
Are the Blues in the position now where they're kind of like, all right, let's give Wiedering a couple of weeks to kind of chill, see what the young kids have, or is their depth just not even there to do that?
No, actually, I wouldn't do that. I don't think you could drop Wiedering for the sake of that. I think you're at the point now where, and we'll talk about Carlton, but I think there's just so abominably bad that you just got to kind of do with what you've got. Sure. But Dean, I think, has shown some real positives. The other problem for Dean is he's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old key defender in the AFL. That's a pretty rough spot to be in. So any wins that he can get, and no, I don't consider sending Liam Henry into the second row of Marvel officially a win, even though it was really quite funny. If it wasn't funny, Len, stop laughing. It wasn't funny. We're not allowed to laugh at fashionable Liam. You're not fashionable, Liam, in case you want to. Although that is a very nice vest.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I think B- for Dean. I like what we've seen, but we're going to need to see a bit more, just because of the simple problem that Carlton have a defensive nightmare down back, and that can make life difficult for a teenager.
I think he'll be okay. Like if you look at Dean, he's probably one of the ones that looks like he belongs on a football field, if that makes sense. Like you watch him play and you're like, okay, that looks like a football player. He's young. I think he'll be okay in time. Hopefully he gets some support. Maybe obviously not this year, but in the coming years, Carlton can find someone to come down back and offer him a bit of a hand. But I think he'll be okay as well, Jesse. I think we'll be talking about him in the next couple of years as a pretty handy defender. That's for sure.
Next up is Cooper Duff-Tytler, another West Coast pickup in the top 5. Going with
Jesse, we're not going to get all the hate mail now. Oh, there you go. We're going to get hate mail now for saying his name wrong.
Hang on, we're still 5 picks until Roby?
That's true.
Give it some time. Look, I'm going C+ with Duff-Tytler. On the one hand, I really love his skills with the ball. So his ability to get the ball down low is fantastic. He's a pretty good user. I like his game awareness. The limiting factor for me is he can't really ruck yet, and that's kind of what he is. I think he's an okay forward, but a better ruck. So I think I couldn't go higher than a C+, but I'm not going to fail him because I think what we have seen from him outside of the ruck work is good. And realistically, when you take a ruckman high in the draft, you're rolling the dice on a bit of a project as well. I think if you can get one that is genuinely much better than the competition, I think you take it. You are also saying we're probably not going to start to see a real ROI on this until season 3. In terms of a genuine measurable ROI. Now, West Coast are relying on Matt Flynn and Bailey Williams, so I can understand, their want to fast track that process and get Duff-Tytler in the ruck ASAP. So to McQualter's credit, he hasn't kind of burnt his fingers to put out the raging bushfire in that regard, which is important long term. What I'd like to see from Duff Tyler is just that bit of extra forward craft. I mean, it's also unfortunate for him that he's got Shanahan and Waterman in the forward line too. So he's been shoehorned into this secondary position where I guess his rivals in the air are probably two of West Coast's 5-6 best players, which does make life hard. So being a bit generous with Duff Tyler in terms of, not generous, but being a bit more pragmatic with Duff Tyler's grading, trying to look at it on balance and just say, like what we're seeing, there's clearly reasons why he went in the top 5 based on some of the stuff we have seen from him. And I think we're going to continue an upwards trajectory as the season goes on.
Yeah, agree. Well, so Jesse, who's next on the list?
Next up, we're going to talk about Sam Cumming, who has gotten into the team after some hamstring troubles at Richmond. Haven't they had their fair share of hamstring troubles? Now, I'm really liking what we're seeing from Sam Cumming. I think there's a really good player here. I am going with a B+. If we did this 2 weeks later and he's continuing to do what he has in his first fortnight at AFL level, we'd probably be talking an A. He is going to have to stand up with Taranto's inconsistency, Prestia's perennial injury, Hopper's inconsistency, the fact that Lawler, who was starting to look like he might get some midfield time with a bit more regularity, is now out of the team with that Achilles. So he's going to end up thrust into a lot of centre bounces. He's going to be doing a lot of that grunt work in there as well. And from what we saw against the Eagles, I love his willingness to go and fight for that footy, which, you're looking around, you're seeing Harley Reid, Tim Kelly, Elliot Yeo, who have been, one is very much marketed as an absolute bull, an absolute unit, and to be fair, is that. And then you got two very much established, experienced AFL level quality mids. Yo's won a premiership, Kelly's won a best and fairest and been an All-Australian. Yo would have been close to an All-Australian as well if he hadn't been one. So he's very good mids and, was willing to stand up and be counted in there. So B+ for Cumming. I think this could end up being a very good pick by them because I know there's a lot of talk about, trademark compromise, draft trademark. But Cumming, if you look at this, is probably, he's the third real pick if we're going to use Bassett ball here. And he may end up being better than the other two long term. He's one that I really like for a team over the next 15 years, like what we're seeing from him. Really good early signs.
I'd much rather be a young kid probably at Richmond at the moment over someone like an Eagles or an Essendon or a Carlton because I don't know what it is about them, but the young kids seem to be getting a lot more and a quicker development being at Richmond than the other teams. Is that a fair assessment? Or, I mean, I think so.
I think culturally there's a bit more positivity around Richmond's rebuild than the other names you've mentioned there, Liam. I think if you look at like Carlton and Essendon seem to not be able to admit they're in a rebuild, which is problematic when you are. West Coast have admitted they're in a rebuild, but have alarmingly gotten worse despite having a better win-loss record this season, which is really concerning. And I think that is going to put some mental strain on some of the younger players. Well, not just their first-year players, but some of the other younger guys as well. But yeah, I see your point. I think Richmond are a positive place. We'll talk about Sam Grill now, given we're on the topic of the Tigers and we're still here. This is one I'm not really sure about, Liam, to be honest. I don't think he's flattered to deceive. I'm going to go with a C. I don't really think we've seen a lot of amazing quality from Grill. Now, he's also, I guess you got to Yulant him a little bit in the sense that he's got guys like Jaden Short competing for spots around him, which does make things a little bit difficult. I don't know if I expected more from him or whether it's just a case of he's a guy that's really risen up the board relatively late in the draft year, gotten a lot of attention, gotten the pick in the top 10, and we're just going to kind of see how he settles in. But I think of the top 10 that have played with regularity, he's probably the one I've been the least impressed with of the group.
Okay. Because he's played every game so far, hasn't he? I believe he's coming in.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he's looked okay, Jesse. But I mean, this is why you do the analytical side of things. Because I just watch a game of footy and enjoy it.
I do think his decision making is.
But that's going to come with you. That's going to come with a young fella. It's going to come with a young fella, and all of them, obviously, some of them are very good off the bat. But you can't be too harsh on them for that, I suppose.
No, and keep in mind, we're doing this off a handful of games.
I know. It's the way too early gradings.
It is, but it's a good benchmark. It's a good benchmark to see kind of who's shot up the board early, who's maybe not quite lived up. Let's talk Essendon now because there's 3 picks we'll go through. So we're going to jumble around the draft order a little bit because we can. We'll go with Roby at 9 first. I'm going to go C+ for Roby. Delayed start to the season with some back stress.
Wait, I thought you said we have to all have A's for Essendon. You've gone back on this immediately, Jesse.
Well, we said that. Can you just dub my voice over with an A? Thank you.
Just take some B-roll for me now.
A. A+. Subscribe. Look, I think Roby's shown a little bit of quality. Popped up for a nice goal, which is always nice to see. But he's a project player, I think. And I think a lot of Essendon fans missed that point that I was making at the time, is that you're investing in a midfield project player when you've got other guys around the board that you're probably a little bit closer to in terms of completeness. So we'll see with Roby, but a C+, some good early signs. One guy I do really want to talk about, though, that absolutely deserves a high grade is Jacob Farrow. This is your A. This is your best start to the season by any rookie, in my view. I really like Farrow. He is an excellent decision maker. He's great off half-back, good user of the ball a lot of the time. Probably needs to just tune up his two-way defensive running would be my one criticism of him, so making sure he's accountable for his man. But from what I've seen from Farrow, this is a promising player, and I think Essendon have done really well with this pick. He was the type of guy that I think they desperately needed because, let's face it, McGrath's not cutting the mustard. Roberts is great for fantasy, but gee, that bloke can't use the footy. He cannot use the football. It's like having a team of Adam Sards out there. Like they just not use El Hawley. Like none of these guys and we saw the whiteboard. We've all seen the whiteboard. None of these back six can use the football. Well,
it's funny because I saw all this stuff, all the talk about the whiteboard after the fact, and I still don't entirely think I know what happened. Was it just a case of that Brisbane had a bunch of names on the whiteboard saying how bad some of the players were, and that was it?
And some strengths.
Oh, good.
Ben Mackay's strength column was empty, which is quite funny. But look, we're not talking about Ben Mackay. He can have an F. Farrow can have an A, though. He has been a very good pickup for Essendon. I've got nothing but compliments for that. And I think we're going to continue to see some very good performances of him throughout the season. Let's do Sharp as well. Going to go B- for Sharp. On the one hand, he gets a bit of a Duff Tyler rule here, in the sense that he's not playing his position because Essendon didn't trade Zach Merritt. And that was abominably silly at the time. And when you look at Sharp playing as a half forward and not being able to influence the game with inside ball contested possessions, you do start to wonder about these things. And I know, and I'm sure I'll hear from the Essendon supporters, well, we didn't think it was fair value. And that's fine. But they've won one game. They've won one game. Did Zach Merritt single-handedly win the Melbourne game off his own boot? No. Not really. So he was good. He was good that day.
He was.
But so was, other players who didn't have any trade value whatsoever. So, I think I look at this and I'm disappointed for Sharp. And look, his time in the midfield will come. Parrish and Merritt and co will be, gently put out to pasture eventually. Brad Scott loves doing that. He's famous for it. But I look at this and I just think he's having to adapt to a role that is very clearly not for him. And I'm almost wondering if he's better off in the VFL, not because he's not AFL ready.
Just from seasoning?
Because, and I look at this and I just think, well, they've tried it with Sardis and that didn't work. They've had it with Hobbs where they've had an inside mid come in and just, spat back out of the AFL system in threes. And to be fair, they did use Hobbs mostly correctly for a decent chunk. He just wasn't good enough. But that's my concern for Sharp, as things currently lie, is he going to be given opportunity in his current position? That's my concern. I'm conscious of time, so we're going to fly through a couple more here.
I was going to say, are we just doing the top 10, or are you just going to go and just pepper some in from around the
I'm going to throw
draft?
Couple of quick ones in. Latrell Pickett, B for Latrell Pickett. I really liked what I've seen. I still question mark the logic in taking him as high as he was taken. But really exciting. Clearly links up well with the Melbourne forward line. Can hurt you as well. And I really like his engine and his tank as well. He really covers the ground well, which I did notice a lot in that Sydney game as well on Sunday. He really was everywhere. I'd see the long season, I think, how is Cozzy in two places? And I look closer, it's Latrell. And he's running very fast. And also, I think he might be faster than Cozzy too. And Cozzy can go.
Latrell's,
yeah.
They got him probably for a bit too expensively, but he's pretty good. He's been a big vital part of Melbourne's kind of renaissance this year.
And look, if he turns out to be a valuable player in a premiership team, you don't really care where he's picked from. It doesn't matter, like, at this point. But I'm willing to walk back some of my criticism on that in the sense that I thought Melbourne would be way worse than they have been, and to see them, wildcard competing, there is logic in taking a guy that's a little bit more seasoned, a bit more ready-made to go. I was kind of expecting Melbourne to bottom out. To their credit, hasn't happened. It is starting to look like maybe a smarter pick than at the time I thought. Still, let's give it a couple more years in terms of that long-term judgment. Doveston, I'm going to go with C+. It's a tough role in that north forward line, but he pops up. He's lively, and he usually gets at least one or two opportunities a game to hit the scoreboard. That'll come for him. He's also got the problem of having Paul Curtis around, who's really good.
Very good.
Lindsay, A-. Really like what I've seen from him. Great kick of the football. Clearly a long-term Duggan replacement in my mind, except with the ability to hit a target, which is, I'm sure, going to be very much welcomed by West Coast fans. I think Lindsay may end up being the steal of this draft. Certainly in the top 20. From what we've seen early doors, he's the one that I'm looking at saying, there's a bit of quality here, and I'm pretty keen to see what he can produce as a result. I don't think we're going to go much further down. There's been a couple of guys that have had A game. I mean, Jake Stringer was technically redrafted in the draft. He can have a B. Congratulations, Jake.
Jake.
So what do you think? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Have I gotten your grades completely wrong? Who's surprised you? Has anyone disappointed you out of the draft class so far? And do you expect any major changes to my gradings and potentially my rankings of these draft players when we get to the end of the season? And we desperately need something to talk about.
That's true, Jesse. That's true. But that was a good little deep dive. I like that. It's and look, we're a third of the way into the season already. Isn't that crazy? So I think now's a good time. You got a good sample size. I think it's great. So if you've got your thoughts, please, of course, let us know down below. Jesse, it is time to talk about the round that was round number 8 in the AFL Premiership season. It was quite an interesting old round. It got a lot of close games. I thought, looking at the games coming into this round in tips and trades, it was a curious one. It was a curious one, and we got the curiosities right off the bat. We will start, of course, on Thursday night, where we had a draw. Our first draw of the season. I always lament a draw, Jesse. I said this last week because it makes me do extra graphics, which I don't like. I don't have time. I'm just joking. It's fine. It's fine. I do. I did it. Correct. 15-3, 93 to the Magpies. Draw with the Hawthorn Hawks. 13-15, 93. Two very different ways of getting to the exact same place. But that said, it was a cracking game of footy, Jesse.
Well, they say it's not about the journey, it's about the destination.
No, but they do say that, yes.
Great game of footy. I'd happily watch this game on repeat for the rest of the season.
Even though it was a draw.
Yeah. Also, can we get this? Let's get this out of the way early. Let's not do extra time. If I hear one more suggestion about extra time, I think I'm going to yell. I'm against it for the grand final.
Are you?
I think the replay is a good idea. I like it. I think it adds that element of
interesting
unpredictability, and I also think it makes the draw so much more meaningful. Like, we remember St Kilda Collingwood. We remember the faces of the players. We remember the emotion. We remember what that was like.
We can remember all the corporates down at the sidelines throwing their hands and licking their lips because they got to do it all over again next week.
We can remember the Qantas CEO doing cartwheels around the MCG. And then Scott Embry won the Norm Smith, and Collingwood won by 80,000 points in the replay, and St Kilda never contended again. Let's talk about this game, though.
Okay.
Very gritty. I think I said just as much about this in Just the Tips. I said this is a perfect foil-counterfoil game for Hawthorn. Because on the one hand, they're very good at freewheeling and breaking you down. On the other hand, Collingwood are a very well-organised side who can bind, glue together, and just be very tough to beat. That's basically what happened here, is it not?
Yeah, more or less, Jesse, more or less. I mean, there is obviously something to be said about the behinds that Hawthorn kicked and this being a draw. But watching the game itself, it seemed like a very even contest across the day. And this is what the thing about Collingwood is, because obviously I think I tipped Hawks in this one with quite a lot because I wasn't sure about the Pies, but this is the kind of thing the Pies can do, right? Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you are. they'll show up. They'll rock up. And that's one thing I do respect about the Pies is that even when, they're not meant to do quote unquote as well this season, you can never count them out. And this game was proof of that.
I can see a world where Collingwood squirm into that 6th spot and dodge the wild card. I still think they're a wild card team when you move and shake everything out over the next 16 weeks. I would not be shocked though if they were able to bridge up and just grab that 6. It'd be on something Jamie like percentage because they don't lose by much. They get wins. They just grind them out.
Yep.
I also wouldn't be surprised if this was a finals matchup as well because both these teams warrant that. I think Hawthorn, for me, as I've said the last couple of weeks, they're your lamplighters at the moment this season. I think they are clearly the ones. So we'll see where this all shakes out, but a really positive performance from the Hawks. Collingwood can take a lot out of that as well, and we're looking forward to seeing how they go as they head into the buys.
Second time in as many weeks has been a shot after the siren to try and seal a draw. This time, obviously, Moore was a bit more experienced than the young fella who wasn't Carlton, that missed that shot after the siren.
Oh God, that was ages ago now.
I feel it was ages ago, but also last week. Who can be sure? Probably 2 weeks ago. Who knows? But no, really good game of footy. This one. Anything to add, Jesse, or should we move on?
Houston's having a great season.
Yes, he is. He's having a very good, very, very good season. Like I said, I think I said this a few weeks ago. Dacos and Houston, pretty much always in my top 3 for Collingwood this season. It's hard to argue that those two aren't. I was going to say holding that team together. That's not even fair. That's not fair at all.
They're setting an example for the rest.
They're setting an example. That's right, Jesse. That's right. And the main offenders there for Hawks as well. All right, Jesse, we've got lots of games to go through, so we'll go on to this next one. We'll probably have stuff to say about this, or basically the 2 games on Friday night were bangers, actually. Starting at Marvel, the Bulldogs 15-12-102 going down to the Dockers 17-12. 114, a beaten and battered Bulldogs team showing a bit of fight and grunt, which is what you expect. Good win in the end by the Dockers, which is nice to see, because at the start of the game, Jesse, it was looking like we might be in a bit of strife.
Yeah, are we concerned about this?
Listen, I was going to come in here just angry, like I did.
We don't have to be concerned about this.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. I don't think I am, because one thing we've been lamenting old mate J-Lo for this season is not having a plan B. But I think in this game, he showed that he was able to actually move some things around, get a bit fired up, and get the team into a position to win this game. And we can't lament him when call a spade a spade. We'll call it out when it's bad. We say it's good when it's good. This was pretty good. So no, I'm not too concerned. I think obviously the Hawks game coming up this week will be a big old test. But at the end of the day, I mean, to be 7-1 at this stage of the season is not a bad thing at all.
No, clearly it isn't, and the win-loss record does tell all of the story. Young, Jackson, Bolton, Reid won this game for Fremantle. Make no mistake about that. Concerned about Sarong's taggability at this point, and he's always been earmarked as a taggable player, but I'd say he's had more quiet games this year than significant ones, and that's a worry for me.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about like how the midfield has kind of changed now from being Brayshaw and Sarong to Young and Shea, right? Maybe there's just a bit of a transition going on in terms of like, can we use Seba and Brayshaw elsewhere and still get the most out of their skills?
See, I don't think you can. It's weird, right? Because I look at this and I see Sarong getting tagged out of games, see Andy having a quiet season. I think that's a concern. The 2 guys they've brought in, Young and Shea primarily, they do have versatility to play elsewhere. So it's become very much a catch-22 situation for Fremantle now, where they've got a gun midfield. I'm not at all saying that Young and Shea shouldn't be rotating through the midfield. They clearly should be. But it makes things interesting to my eye to see how this is all managed out. Thought Mason Cox had a pretty good game as well, to be honest. I think what we're seeing now from Luke Jackson is the ability to dominate as a number 1 ruckman. Now, do you remember, Liam, when he was going to play midfield this season and he wasn't going to ruck? That was really that is starting to look like one of the silliest things this football club has ever seriously suggested.
Smoke and mirrors, Jesse. It was all just a subterfuge. It was
I hope
shades.
It was. I
Pull
really
over
hope
your eyes.
Because I mean, like if that's a prank, it's a pretty good one. Yeah. If it was a genuine intent, then I can't help you. The Dogs, they'll obviously be really disappointed to have lost this game, but they stuck really well. Bont, obviously, is just an absolute freak of nature. I still think Brownlow Pelly 2026 could just be on. Although, it sounds like he might be getting rested this week. So
I was going to say, he looked sore that entire game. He looked really sore that entire game. So it wouldn't surprise me if they give him a stint on the sidelines.
I'm also troubled by the fact that the Dogs have no forward line, and yet Aaron Norton's still able to, dominate. That's a concern for me for defensive structure. And I think we've gradually started to see a bit of our defensive capability erode in the last 18 months. So that's something I'm monitoring. But look, you can't argue with the score. I do think that the Dogs have been desperate and unlucky. They've played Sydney and Fremantle in consecutive weeks in the middle of their injury crisis at a time where both teams are in form and confident. So that's pretty rough for the Dogs. Obviously their spiral down the ladder has been disappointing for them. But equally, if they had, let's pick on the Giants. They got Port this week. So they had the Giants, Port, and Richmond just because of fluke luck. They probably haven't lost any of those games, and they're fine. It's just one of those things, right? Liberatore will come back. Bontempelli will probably miss this week and then come back to full health, hopefully. English is now back. They're not going to pay for the Sam Darcy crack in the team. Eventually, Lob will come back. It's just a bit of a waiting game for the Dogs, and unfortunately, it's going to make top 4 hard for them this season, but they should still be aiming for that 5th or 6th position.
I think Beveridge can be very proud of how he's coached his team through some pretty tough times the last couple of weeks. This was proof of that. He's got the team up and about, just couldn't quite get the job done. Ran out of legs in the end. All right, let's move on, Jesse, to the next game. The other game on Friday night, Adelaide Crows 11-10-76, getting over the Power 11-9-75, a 1-point game that had all... Overall, this might have a bit of the close game fallacy about it, but all in all, that ending was nuts. It was a nuts ending.
Miraculous. Can I just say?
Yes, you can. When have you ever asked permission?
It's the best it's ever been.
Oh man,
and we're paying that as a free kick.
Oh my god! It's funny, right? Butterfly flaps its wings. What happens after that? But that Miller goal that was taken away should never have been overturned. It should never have been a free kick the other way. And I don't know what the umpire was even seeing. Beggars belief. We won't go on about it because everyone saw it. I'm sure everyone's seen it by this stage. But man, oh man, that had all the hallmarks of being something that could have really ruined a really exciting end to the game, but instead actually amplified it, Jesse.
It's funny how it works out. How good of a player was Sam Berry on Friday night? He was unbelievable. No Jordan Dawson, no worries in your midfield.
Cheeky 19 tackles, thank you very much. I mean, that's got to be close to a record, you would think.
Oh, it'd be up there.
Yeah, it'd be up there. It's huge. Huge effort. Huge effort. Yeah, if you happen to have Sam Berry in your fantasy team, congrats.
Which I didn't check his percentage of ownership. I reckon it would have been under 1 because about 150 he normally gets about 80. So yeah. I don't reckon he would have been. But if you captain Sam Berry, let us know in the comments and also give us access to your time manipulation machine.
If you have a friend who's also giving you punishments for losing in fantasy and they made you captain Sam Berry, congrats.
Oh, that would be that's something that you would do to me.
Correct. Yeah, spot on. 100%.
Aaliyah was excellent.
Move the microphone back in a little bit. You just moved it away from your face. Okay, go again. Sorry.
I don't believe you. Aaliyah was fantastic. Butters, good performance. JHF continuing to put together a good season. We'll see with Port. Really liked the last month.
They've looked okay.
They're susceptible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but they've looked okay. Much better than we expected them to be, I would say. If they can get a couple of wins together, and they might have a good chance at this week with the battered Dogs, but who knows with the Power?
They will be ruining that bad start because it's starting to look even worse now. Is that you know what? With that quality we've shown in the last 2 weeks, we probably could have been really looking at a wildcard berth this season, and now we've made it exponentially harder for ourselves to get there.
Yeah.
We don't need to be losing to West Coast at home.
No, crikey Moses. But it was, on the flip side, a crucial win for the Crows, who are looking to get their season back on track as well, start their climb back up the ladder, which is where we kind of expect them to be. But they've kind of looked susceptible themselves this year. So, if you haven't seen the end of this game, if you haven't gone to AFL.com and watched the little last 2 minutes video, this is definitely one to do it one on because, man, that was quite the ending. Quite the ending. If Adelaide had lost, I reckon the fans might have stormed the field. They might have.
It had that vibe to it, didn't it?
It actually did. Because Adelaide famously always screwed out of these things by umpires, don't you know, Jesse? Always.
Well,
let's move on to Saturday, shall we? Let's move on to Saturday. At Marvel, 11-13-79 to the Bombers, getting trounced by the Lions, 22-11, 143. What's to say about this one, Jesse?
I'm bringing back one of our old favourites, Liam, from last season.
The Bomberometer?
I'm wheeling out the Bomberometer for the first time this season. I know.
All right. I forgot about the Bomberometer.
Brisbane played at about a 4.
Yep.
And not only won by 10 goals, almost kicked 150.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the level we're talking about here, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And I actually don't really want to talk about this game with any great detail because it was boring. Mm-hmm. It was extremely one-sided. I mean, Essendon got a couple of goals, which is nice for them. Peter Wright looked good.
His best game so far this season, probably for the last few seasons, actually.
Yeah, it'd be up there. Washcroft was fantastic. Zorko looked good, kind of coming back and getting comfortable into that Brisbane back six as well. But yeah, this was always a bit of a freebie, and I have that vibe to it. I think everyone in Marvel Stadium kind of knew that. And the fact that a whiteboard was more interesting than the game itself, I think really probably tells you what you need to know.
I love Brad Scott thought it was really funny. And Chris Vagan's just like, no, I should be sharing our things, man. But no, I think it was...
He would hate to have shared Action Man as a child.
No.
Get your hands off it.
That's mine. All right, we'll go to the next game, Jesse. I agree. Not much to talk about. This one, however, the Eagles 13-10-88 going down to the Richmond Tigers 15-9-99. Oh, dear. Okay. So, Eagles fans, I would love to hear your thoughts because the Richmond Tigers not only hadn't won a game this season, but they also had 17 players unavailable to them through injury. Their seconds team only had 3 AFL listed players available to them, which means they were playing on fumes in terms of their list. They still got the job done at home against the Eagles, and it was quite a healthy crowd watching the Eagles because I'm sure a lot of the Eagles fans would have thought this was a very gettable win and a very gettable game, but they're missing something, Jesse. They're missing some X factor. Not even a month ago, we were excited about this, and we mentioned this last week. We were excited about the Eagles. They looked on the up and up, a couple of really good wins, and it was almost like that was it. Their season was done. Start again. Like they've just regressed so far in the last month. It's really more than a month now, but it's really kind of sad to see. It's kind of sad to see. What were your thoughts on it?
I didn't think I'd be saying this 12 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think McQualter is up to it.
Wow.
And I look at this team and I see a squad and a playing group that is completely bankrupt of confidence to the point where this is not an acceptable loss for West Coast. And you could lose to Richmond by 1 point, you could lose to Richmond by 100 points. The context of what this loss is makes this inexcusable. And I am now of the view, and like I said, I was not in this of this stance last season. I was not of this stance coming into the season. But I think now, having seen the 130-point trouncing by Sydney, the 101-point trouncing by St Kilda, and this, with West Coast, by and large, over a lot of the injury issues that really started this whole mess in 2022, realistically, I don't think this team should be losing to Richmond on paper. You throw in some injuries. I mean, Richmond were down a rotation for 3 7/8 of the game.
Mm.
When you consider Prestia's calf injury in the first 5 minutes. You've got a forward line that's being spearheaded by a guy that can't kick straight, a 10 gamer who can't kick straight most of the time, and Seth Campbell. Without being disrespectful to Richmond, that's not a good team.
Yeah.
They don't have a functioning number one ruckman. Now, Bailey Williams isn't a world beater, but he is an established ruckman with experience at AFL level. And then I look at guys like Duggan and Tom Cole running around, and I'm just like, I don't see where there is a shred of value in this. And I know Jamie Cripps has slid out of the team. That's another one. But to me, this is so bankrupt of confidence at West Coast that I think we're starting to gravitate towards a Voss situation where I don't think this is a tenable position now, just because for McQualter to turn this around, we need to see Richmond being accounted for by the Eagles.
Yeah.
And we need to see something that says, you know what? the 100-point losses are a thing of the past. I think that they didn't lose by 130 points last season. Did they even lose by 100 last year? I think maybe once, and if then, I know they lost by 101 to St Kilda, but even then barely. They've lost twice in the first 2 months of the season by 100 points. They were thrashed by 10 goals in the Derby. They were thrashed by 10 goals at People First Stadium. Like, the average losing margin would have to be about 75 points.
Yeah.
Like, that is not AFL standard. That actively brings down the competition. And I don't think it's all the fault of the playing group. And I will criticise Elliot Yeo because he was very dismissive of Paddy Sweeney's question at 6 p.m. calling it a rut. No, it is a rut. You've lost by 130 points to Sydney, 101 points to St Kilda, and you've lost to, a genuinely terrible Richmond side who haven't won in 12 games. That's pretty bad, guys. Like, that's pretty indefensible. And, like, you had a good game, but you're one of the senior players. So, blasely dismissing that is really concerning to me.
Yeah, and I guess that's what was kind of surprising. Like, I understand going into bat for your team and the like, but yeah, I mean, some accountability would be nice. Just a little bit, just to say, yep, we're not at our best. We've got some work to do, which is what most other teams say when they've had a bit of a stinker. To say that they're not in a rut and kind of dismiss it and be kind of offended by it almost was a bit strange. It was a bit strange.
I mean, to go out and say, well, it's okay because we've lost to good teams. I mean, St Kilda are 4-4. They've beaten you by 100 points. That's quite concerning to me. That's a concerning perspective from a senior player to have. And it really did surprise me coming from Yo because he strikes me as a genuine competitor. So a very blasé attitude to losing.
I think he's frustrated. And he's probably sick of it. He's probably over it. So I get it. But we won't go on too much longer just because we've got like a bunch of games to go through. So any last thoughts on this one before we chuff on?
Another 100-point loss, I think he's gone. I really do.
Yeah, I think we're about to see a fair amount of moving and shaking. We'll move on to the next one. Jesse at GMHBA on Saturday, 21-9, 135 to the Cats, 13-8, 86 to the Kangaroos, who were competitive for maybe 3 quarters of football before Geelong just like, bye, see you later, just ran away with it.
And this is really a good game to go into off the contrast of what we just talked about because, North have at times struggled with the 3 quarters of quality and then falling apart. And on one hand, you can look at this and say, well, that's happened again here. But they were having three quarters of quality against Port Adelaide and falling apart. Or 3 quarters of quality against Carlton and falling apart. That's not happening anymore. They made life really tough for the Cats at home. And, to Geelong's credit, knuckled down, got the job done. Excellent finish to the game. Leaders stood up. But, they were able to, even these little things like quelling the influence of Bailey Smith, really making Jeremy Cameron earn his goals. I think you look at little things like that and you just say, there is something trending in the right direction. And I don't think North are that far off a top 10 spot now in terms of where we're going to finish up in terms of the end of the season. So really positive. Cherry had an excellent day. It was always going to. Sheasel, notably quiet for North, probably his poorest performance of the season, but love what we saw from McKercher. O'Sullivan showing a bit concerns with LDU's hamstring. That might make things a bit tough. Also, Max Holmes, I want to talk about a bit as well because he seems to have changed his role a little bit in this week. It's a bit more time out of the middle. So interesting to see how that develops for him because I think he's one of their real assets inside and winning the ball, using the ball intelligently, retaining possession, all of his kind of key skills. So seeing him outside of that was interesting, but I mean, like, realistically, if anyone knows what they're doing at this stage, it's Chris Scott. I think we can afford him the opportunity to try something a little bit different, especially against a side that, I know I've just praised them, but Geelong should be beating North at the respective junctures. So you can understand something like that. But good performance from North, good performance from Geelong. Obviously, Geelong get the 4 points, but I think this is just a continuing sample size now for North. We're outside the bizarro West Coast game. They're really putting together a very good season, and we can start to see this portfolio of work from them continue to see results and upwards ladder trajectory this year.
Yep. Hard to argue, Jesse. All right, let's move on to the next game, the final game on Saturday, I do believe. This one, 9-15, 69 to the Blues, going down to the Saints, 16-12, 108. Again, another case of Carlton just forgetting how to play football after half time. Apparently, this was this was my job to watch this game, Jesse, and I found it very difficult because it wasn't an overly interesting game of football. The only interesting part was how how hard the Saints just grabbed onto Carlton after half time and started playing with their toys, playing with their food. It was just ridiculous. It's concerning if you're a Blues fan. Like, I think I texted to you. I said, imagine being a Blues fan right now, because what have you got to look forward to? Jagger Smith, that's pretty fun. Kemp's doing really well up forward. He's probably the best, most potent forward for the last month or so.
All season, really.
Oh yeah. Then what? I mean, you're going to get this every single if you're going to get this every single week, you're going to be struggling. The only wins come in that opening round against Richmond, right? Oh, round one against Richmond.
Round one, yeah. And that was thanks to Tom Lynch kicking 2 goals 7, by and large. Look, I do like that Carlton cleared the decks with Charlie Curto and got the picks. Now, Sydney have obviously continued to be highlighted, which does somewhat dent the value of that. But I do think that was a good deal. So that's probably what there is to look forward to. There is talent coming. We know that Cody Walker's coming. We know there are other high draft picks in that first round. The talent pipeline will regenerate. And look, Carlton do have that big club allure still. They've got Walsh to recommit. Smith's on the rise. They've got a good spine developing with Dean. They just got a couple of issues they really need to iron out across the board. St Kilda, an important win for them, and a win I'm quite happy to go and praise, because although Carlton are Carlton when it comes to second half fade-outs, I do get the sense that maybe 12 months ago St Kilda would have got stuck in the mud a bit in this scenario, and it would have been a real slog to the finish with both teams swinging wild punches and missing horrifically. This was better from the Saints. Really helped by some poor discipline from Carlton too. Like, they made some very bad decisions, but absolutely deserve credit, the Saints, for latching on and taking advantage. Nazai is building into the season well. Am I concerned that Rowan Marshall is the better ruck next to the bloke that they're paying $1.8 million? I am.
Yeah.
To be honest, I am. But let's keep it overall positive for the Saints. An important win. Level their win-loss record out. They can look to start building for a wildcard spot, or if they can strike form with that late Victoria stretch at home, potentially even higher.
How long for Voss?
I mean, it's become how long is a piece of string, because I've been saying all year. I think it's a case of you need to get the divorce over with.
You said this last year.
and this is the thing, right? I look at this list and I don't think there's inspiration in this team, much like West Coast. I don't think they're inspired at the moment when I look at them play. So I'm very curious to see what Carlton have in the pipeline. I mean, I think John Longmire's had a year off now. He would make sense because he does have that more of an old school mentality. And I think we've seen a couple of the more new generation coaches at Carlton, I speak of Teagan Bolton, not work. So, if they're not blowing up Horse's phone and saying, let's do this, I'd be interested to see what else they could consider, because Voss has 15 years of experience in the AFL coaching system, about 6 now as a senior coach between his stints at Brisbane and Carlton. So, I could understand the temptation to keep him. At the same time, I'm not really convinced that it's in anyone's best interest at this point.
Fair enough. Let's go on to Sunday's game. Just the 2 on Sunday. Really strange scheduling, but that's okay.
Do we need to have overlapping Fridays? I would have been quite fine to see Fremantle play the Dogs in a Sunday death slot. I don't think we needed to clash that with the showdown.
No, not at all. I agree. 19-17, 131 to the Swans, going down to a very spirited Melbourne Demons side at 17-12, 114. A high-scoring affair, this one. And for the most, it was a fantastic game of footy. The Demons, man, like, I know they're obviously on the losing end of this one here, but they're looking really good. They're looking really good this season. Stephen King's done a very, very good job with this list, and they took it to a team that's only lost one game this season and who are tipped to be up there at the end of the season. They took them to the limit, and if not for a couple of late goals, then this could have been a much, much closer affair. Like, I was rooting for the Demons, I really was, and that's not just because I tipped them. I was rooting for them because I'm liking what they're doing at the moment. They're a fun team to watch.
I was rooting for them and then remembered you tipped them and then started cheering for Sydney. No, look, I think Melbourne have a bit of a no fear philosophy for at the moment. You think about the loss to Essendon, which I have mulled over ever since it happened. Like, it does keep me up at night sometimes. I think it was just a case that was a game they're expected to win. I don't think they've been expected to win any other game this season, and that's clearly working. So, West Coast fans, do I have some good news for you? But I think it is just that no fear brand of footy that's really working for the D's at the moment. Sydney, absolutely to their credit, they have wilted in the past when they've been challenged like this. But it's just the advantage having guys like Isaac Heaney on and Brodie Grundy who can just do no wrong. Clearly, their forward line is overwhelming opposition defensively just because there's so many tall people up there. It's making you can raffle it pretty much, which is who you're going to kick to, which does really stretch opposition defenses. Very good signs for both teams. Sydney.
You talk just quickly. You talk about the big guys, but who was it kicking 7?
Well, one of the guys I said would be the pickups of the season, if you don't
That's
mind.
Right.
Malcolm Roses.
Yeah.
Brilliant game. Absolutely. And, brilliant awareness too, in terms of he knew where he needed to be every single. We always hear about, the importance of forward craft or ruck craft as well. But yeah, Roses has that forward craft in space. It's a really intelligent game. And I'm glad he got the reward of the amount of goals that he did. Because he's shown a lot this season at Sydney. I think he's a really good complement to the big boys up in that forward line. And, I don't know if he's ever going to get 7 in an AFL game again, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him continue to really hurt opposition teams. Bob up for that 1-2 goals a game and just continue to churn out those performances and also bring his teammates into the game as well.
Yep, 100%. All right, Jesse, last game of the round was this one. The Suns 11-17-83 defeating the Giants 8-15-63. Now, I was off having dinner with my lovely mother last night, so I didn't get to watch this game. I got home and I said, Jesse, is it worth watching? And you said,
Look, I'll be honest. It wasn't the best way to end the round. It was a bit boring. Petrarca was excellent. That was really good to watch. Gee, he is a brilliant football player. Like I honestly think if he had stayed healthy in the last 2 or 3 seasons, with the way he started this year, he could easily be the best player in the competition. Mm-hmm. I really think he has the most complete skill set. You can still see him, I think, building back a bit of his fitness base, is what I noticed at times in the game last night. But this is a brilliant football player. I mean, he can hoik them from 60. He can go play resting half forward and damage there. He can go and play midfield and damage you there. He burnt Clayton Oliver all night. He went on Callahan. He burnt him when he had the opportunity to do so as well. Just a brilliant football player. Would not surprise me at all if, with an injury-free back end of the season and into next year, if we're talking about him as one of the top 3 guys in the competition.
Yep, absolutely. Hard to argue. Is there much else to add? What about the Giants side, Jesse? What about the Giants? It's
every time they go for the tsunami, they look like they don't have the confidence to do it. The amount of fumbles, and it's experienced guys too. It's Ash handballing to Whitfield's knees.
Yeah.
It's decision-making that just doesn't make sense. And I think Kingsley's been figured out. And it's hard, right? Because I look at this Giants list and I don't think they're premiership contenders, but I also don't look at them and say you're 14th. And on one hand, they've probably got a freebie this weekend. That does help. But on the other, I'm unenthused by the Giants. They've still got some great individual pieces. And you look at it. You look at a team that has Jesse Hogan, Aaron Cadman, Lockie Whitfield, Lockie Ash, Finn Callahan, Clayton Oliver.
Good players.
You can make the argument they should be a lot. I don't know. I've missed out a couple of guys there. You can make the argument they should be a lot higher than they are. It's just not. It's either not clicking or it's being completely figured out.
And you reckon it's the figured out side, Jesse?
I do, because they're individually still having good games. So it's not a case of, I think players are just slumping in form or playing poorly. I look at, I mean, I know Ash is a bit controversial in terms of his effectiveness of his ball use and how meaningful his stats are, but like a guy like Whitfield is one of the best kicks in the competition. And, he's so good at distributing the ball out of defensive 50, and yet, they've kicked 60 points. Their goal kicking was horrific. It was really bad. Like, it was 8-15, but there was about 2 or 3 out in the falls as well. It was a really poor performance in front of goals from the Giants. I think Hogan might need a rest too. He looked a bit sore.
Well, he's only just come back from something, hasn't he? So maybe he's another couple of weeks on the sides. Might be okay. Come back fit and firing. Jesse. That's it. That's it for round 8 action in the AFL season. Nice little deep dive at the start. That's it. Send the lovely people home.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the 7 Metre Perfect AFL podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on one of our preferred podcasting platforms, a 5-star review goes a long way. But the best type of review you can give us is word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell people you've just met at engagement parties, corner them and tell them they must subscribe to the 7 Metre Perfect AFL podcast. It's a proven strategy. If I can do it, you can do it too. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in, as always, and enjoy tips and trades over on our YouTube if you haven't already. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.